Is a businessman and a Tory party donor and founder of the retail shop Phones for You. Thank you very much for joining us. In terms of what was made on Wednesday, what those comments were made by the Prime Minister, the change in direction, so to speak, what's your reaction to that?
Well, to be frank, I'm completely devastated by it because I've been lobbying with the government now for 4 years, ever since the start of the pandemic, actually, on something I call Cordwell Pandemic Recovery, which was investment in Britain. And one of the centerpieces of that investment in Britain was to have an enterprise zone for environmental technologies. I have no doubt whatsoever that the growth in environmental technologies, the export opportunities in intellectual property and in products will be huge over the next 20 years as we face increasing environmental challenges. And so to make that an investment opportunity for people to come to Britain, set up businesses in Britain because of the attractive proposition we give to them, will grow Britain's GDP in the future and be an enormous boost to our country. And going back on the pledge of 2030 is an immensely negative statement because everybody's geared up for 2030 and all the motor manufacturers are gearing up. Battery technology is racing on. Everything's going full tilt to get Britain ready for 2030, but also, of course, the rest of the world, which will follow on behind. And I wanted us to lead the world in all technologies, or as many technologies as we could, in the environmental space.
But this doesn't mean that Britain can't do that. It's just kicking the can down the road. Supporters will say it's just 5 more years, and it gives people to prepare a bit more, because lots of businesses have been complaining they don't have enough time to prepare for the introduction of this new technology.
I'm afraid that's not right. Business is a race. Business is a race, whether you sell mobile phones, whether you sell cars, whatever you are in, if you want to be the world leader, it's a race against the competition. And by Boris setting 2030 for the no further sales of combustion engines, that was a hugely positive boost to Britain's future. Yes, of course, there's challenges, but necessity is the mother of invention. We're 7 years away still. There's 7 years to go. And then it's only the stopping of selling new. There'll still be all those millions of internal combustion engines on the road for decades to come, actually, but gradually they will phase out as the electric technology gathers momentum, battery technology gathers momentum, and charging. But it's not just about electric vehicles. It's about making Britain the enterprise centre of the world for the environment by creating a tax-free enterprise zone and wooing businesses and intellectual brains from all over the world to help that happen.
But the Prime Minister's argument will be that that will still happen, and his approach is pragmatic. I think that's the word he described, actually. And he's thinking about the immediate cost to households because there's a cost of living crisis going on at the moment. People are worried about their weekly shops, about their energy bills, and this sort of perhaps will ease that kind of concern.
And where is the cost? Tell me where the cost is. There isn't any. We're preparing for the future, and the cost won't come in the future. The actual GDP growth of Britain will actually offset any cost that there might be. So where is the cost?
When you say the growth will offset the cost, I mean, I'm talking about the cost of living. So inflation is high, price of food.
What's that got to do with 2030?
Well, he's talking about the immediate help to people in terms of not having to replace a gas boiler, for example. The other policies.
They don't have to do that because that's all phased in later on anyway. They're never going to have to do that straight away. This is all for the future. And when we have proper generation of electricity, renewable electricity, not only do we save the planet, but wind turbines are phenomenally cheaper to run than importing electricity through burning of fossil fuels. That's incredibly expensive, as we've seen, 90 pence a kilowatt. The government is subsidising it down and helping us all with that. But we can produce wind turbine electricity. I think it's about 6 or 7 pence a kilowatt. So where's the cost? It's all win, win, win. But we have to have a government brave enough to take the challenge and to drive that challenge through, make it happen, and make Britain great again.
They are still committed, though, to net zero by 2050. Do you think this will perhaps be a bit of a hurdle to that?
Well, look, first of all, nobody knows whether we're already past the tipping point. So when we talk about 2050, that's a goal that is realistically set amongst various countries in the world. But is 2050 any good? Did it need to be 2030 or 2020? Is it already too late? Now, none of us know the answer to that. No scientists know the answer. Nobody actually knows the answer to that. What we do know is the more that we delay, the more chance of going past the tipping point. And if we go past the tipping point, then the world will be in major, major crisis where there'll be devastation to many people on the planet through water shortage, through loss of arable farmland, through flooding of cities. You know, we will be in a devastating mess if we get past that tipping point. Okay. We're already heading that way very, very rapidly. Maybe we're already past the tipping point. Nobody really knows.
Okay,
what I
John
say
Caudle,
is we must do everything in our power to do as much as we possibly can straight away. But please bear in mind that what I'm advocating does not mean a worse standard of living for people. There isn't really any significant cost as long as the government is smart about the way that we do it. We just need to bring environmental technology onto shore and grow Britain's GDP.
Mr. Caudle, thank you very much for joining us. John Caudle, founder of Phones4You and Tory party donor.